Before I start this video, I would like to give a shout out to my Discord server. I have a public community Discord server where I have all of my AUs and stuff organized and everything, artwork, all sorts of stuff. And then of course you can meet all these wonderful, lovely people there. So if you are interested in finding a community that is very enthusiastic about cartoons, anthropomorphized animals, furry shit, you know, the usual bull, yeah, stop on by. Oh. Well, hi there. It's so nice to see you all again. Welcome back to the channel and thanks for stopping by. So the last video I did was covering the difference between furries and zoophiles and why the two groups should not be lumped together in the same category. If you haven't watched that video yet, I highly recommend you do. Link will be in the description below. I briefly mentioned that I would be willing to dive into the different levels of anthro characters and what constitutes as zoo bait and what's acceptable to have an attraction towards in the realm of anthro animal characters. I saw an interest from you guys in diving into that topic more in depth, so here we are. It's 2:38 in the morning as I'm writing this. I'm running on 3 hours of sleep, but I'm an insomniac and have no impulse control when it comes to this sort of thing, so off to the races I go. Whee! Grab a snack, grab a peppermint mocha coffee, and get nuzzled into your comfy spot as we dive into the different levels of anthro. So in terms of anthro, I don't believe I have actual full-on terms for each stage of the anthro scale, so I'll use my own terms for this list. We have animal humans, kind of like Neko girls and Inu girls, you know, stuff like that. Bipedal anthros, semi-feral anthros, and feral anthros. Before we can even think about going into a discussion about the different levels of anthro characters, let's talk about why it's taboo to have an attraction to animal characters in the first place. Is it because they're not human? Well, I'd have to say bluntly, no. People have all sorts of attractions to non-human characters and creatures in different media that aren't animal-based. The amount of robo-fuckers, monster fuckers, and alien fuckers out in the internet don't seem to get batted an eye at nearly as often as furries' sexual interests do. They're not human, yet these examples are seen as socially acceptable to have an affinity for in a sexual way. Do some people find it weird that some people want to get their jollies off to Fleck from Borderlands 3? Or the Xenomorph from Alien? Sure. But I've never once seen someone get called out or publicly scolded or outcasted for expressing such a desire. So why are the animal-themed fictional characters suddenly taboo? Not human doesn't equal off limits, clearly, so what's the distinction here? When discussing the topic of what's acceptable to have an attraction to and what isn't, there are these questions you should always ask yourself. 1. Is it age appropriate for me? 2. Can it consent? Let's talk about that. So I say, is it age appropriate for me? Because yes, even children can have fictional crushes. I know, shocking. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with a child having attraction to another fictional child. And there's not really anything wrong with a child having an attraction to a fictional adult either. It's normal for minors to have attraction towards older people, but what isn't normal and is not okay is for an adult to have an attraction to a minor, fictional or otherwise. So if the character you're crushing on is a child and you're 18 and up, well... Kinda creepy, not gonna lie. As for the next question you should ask yourself, can it consent? Well, let's talk about that. Animal humans and bipedal anthros are pretty clear-cut in my personal opinion. Outside of the people that just judge furries because they don't fully understand what all being a furry entails, everyone pretty much wildly accepts animal humans and bipedal anthros as acceptable in regards to attraction. If an animal human or bipedal anthro existed in the real world and were adults, they would very much be able to express their thoughts and consent or non-consent to you. I don't think I need to spend too much time talking about these guys. Animal humans are basically just humans with animal traits like animal ears, tails, etc. And bipedal anthros are what we would classify as a good chunk of anthro cartoon characters you see on TV shows and movies these days, and in the past. I'd say they are more human than they are animal, ergo, no issue or debate to be had there. Simple and clean. However, what I feel really needs to be delved deeper on is the semi-feral and feral anthros. There is a difference, and I will get into that later. Now remember when I talked about the difference between public perception between people who are attracted to robots, monsters, and aliens compared to certain animal-themed anthro characters? This is where that little spiel comes into play, so pay attention. Semi-feral anthros and feral anthros in particular are what people tend to argue and discourse over in the online sphere. And while I understand my opinion on the matter isn't going to settle any debates, I hope maybe it can help anybody that is unsure of what position to take come to an informed opinion. So let's start with semi-feral anthros. A semi-feral anthro is an animal character that more closely resembles their natural animal anatomy in real life. A few examples of this type of anthro character would be Mrs. Brisby from Secret of Nim, Charlie from All Dogs Go to Heaven, Nala from The Lion King, you get the idea. But despite the fact that they share real-life counterpart anatomy, the difference that sets these characters apart from real-life animals is the fact that they have cognitive human emotions, thoughts, and speech. That is what classifies these characters as anthro, as stated before in my other video, animals with human characteristics. Now for this category of anthro characters, there is a bit of a gray line in my personal opinion when it comes to attraction. Personally, what classifies an attraction to these types of characters as okay or not okay is the reason why you are attracted to them. If you look at characters like these, see the animal anatomy, and think to yourself, damn, that's kinda hot, I wanna tap that, then I'd say, yeah, that's a little weird that the reason you're attracted to them is their body types. And while one could make the argument that I made before, being not human doesn't equal off limits, that argument only really applies to things that you wouldn't be able to find in real life. I don't ever remember seeing a xenomorph just casually walking down the street to get some gelato, or a sexy beast-taming robot getting crepes at a local cafe. Although if I'm being honest, I really wish there was. I love you, Fleck, you are baby girl. So that being said, since you can find dogs, cats, horses, lions, etc. in real life, and these creatures in real life are not able to give consent in any form or fashion, the attraction to that type of body type, even in fiction, is concerning at the very least. However, there's a side of attraction that a lot of people tend to overlook that I believe is very important in not just fictional crushes, but in real-life crushes and relationships as well. Personality. Believe it or not, people can very much be attracted to a person solely for their personality and nothing else. Take asexuals, for example. While asexuality is a broad spectrum that has many different levels and meanings for those that identify as it, myself being one of them, the basic bare-bones idea of asexuals in relationships is that while they may not feel sexual attraction for someone or anyone for that matter, they very much can, and more often than not do, feel romantic feelings for someone. If you like someone's personality a lot, it can lead to having feelings for that person and having an attraction to them, and that can translate into fictional crushes as well. I would say that having a crush on a semi-feral anthro character because you like their personality is fine, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that. Would I raise a brow at you if I saw you drawing porn of said character with detailed animal-like genitalia and such? Yeah, I would. Very much so. But creating an OC within that universe they exist and having a harmless little ship with said character? All good. No problems with that in my personal opinion. There's also people who have an attraction to the human-like qualities that semi-feral anthros have. And yes, semi-feral anthros, believe it or not, do have human-like attributes. These human attributes are usually incorporated in the design of these types of characters' faces, with the human-like eyes, eyebrows, overly expressive expressions, etc. Sometimes people will find the eyes attractive or other facial features and such. I, for one, have a really odd, strange attractions to characters with thick eyebrows. Don't ask me to explain it, I really don't understand it myself. And I think every furry had some sort of awakening and felt that weird feeling when Nala gave Simba the bedroom eyes in The Lion King growing up. Don't deny it. I know you did. Stop lying to yourself. Sicko! But going back to the question you have to ask yourself when wondering if an attraction you have toward a character is okay or not okay, can it consent? I would say that semi-feral anthros in particular can consent, being that they have cognitive thoughts, human feelings and emotions, and human speech. Therefore, if they were real-life beings in the real world, they would be able to properly communicate and consent to you. Although a physical attraction to that body type, as stated before, is eyebrow-raising to say the least, if a character like Nala was real and behaved the same way in real life she did in the movie, she would very much be safe to engage since she could fully communicate to you and consent in that situation. I wouldn't try it because, you know, a fucking lion and all. Don't fuck lions, guys. For the love of God. So as far as I'm concerned, having an attraction to semi-feral anthro characters gets a 50-50 score on the is it off limits radar. It depends on reasoning and context and is case-by-case situation. Now let's talk about the feral anthros. People get semi-feral and ferals mixed up a lot in my personal opinion, and I don't blame them. There's a very subtle difference between these two types of anthros, but there is a difference nonetheless. Feral anthros, as I described them, are anthro characters that resemble their real-life counterparts anatomy-wise, typically do not speak in a human manner, and have animalistic behaviors for the most part. An example of these sort of characters would be Spirit from Stallion of the Cimarron, Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon, Scrap from Ice Age, etc. While these characters are technically anthro in the sense that they have humanized character design attributes such as human eyes and eyebrows, and sometimes behave in a human-like manner that makes them more relatable to the audience and overall more interesting to watch, they are still very much grounded in the idea that these These are animals. They are, for the most part, behaved like animals, and that is what they are supposed to be portrayed as and seen as by the audience. Characters like this cannot use human speech. They mostly communicate through body language, grunts, and animal noises. Sometimes someone might do a voiceover of the animal character in questions and or thoughts, like what was done in Spirit, but that's about the extent you'll get out of characters like this. If Toothless were a real creature that existed in this world, he would very much be seen as an animal that is unable to communicate and consent. Ergo, he is not on the market for humans. Feral Anthros are the closest cartoon representation to real-life animals that you can get, and I would say that if I met anybody that did have an attraction to them sexually or personality-wise, that's just wrong. I mean, in all fairness, animals can have personalities, but not nearly enough to the extent and complexity of what a human being can. If you find an animal personality attractive in that way, then I'm sorry, there is something wrong with you and you need to get help, like, right away. Talk to a psychiatrist, touch some grass, go for a walk in the woods. Wait, no, don't go for a walk in the woods, there's animals there. Wait, don't stop, don't go in there, what are you doing? Don't stop doing that, what are you doing to the squirrel? But anywho, that's just about the gist of it all. That's my 2 cents on the matter of what is acceptable and what's not. Long story short, don't draw porn of feral animals. Okay, bye!